Recording. So thank you for joining today. My name is Candace Ruda. I'm a program coordinator here in the Global Experience Office, and I am also a certifying advisor for the Gilman Scholarship. So I'm here to talk to you today about the scholarship, about eligibility, about the application, and there will be some time at the end for questions if you have them. And I'm happy to schedule individual times with folks if you are in the application process and have questions. So just going to get started here. So the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship is a program of the U.S. Department of State with funding provided by the U.S. government. It has been administered by the International Institute of International Education, otherwise known as IIE, since the program's inception in 2001. The Gilman Scholarship Program has become the largest U.S. undergraduate scholarship program supporting U.S. students of high financial need to participate in study abroad programs and international internships. Gilman is one of many vehicles to help students go abroad through scholarships. However, it's much more than just a scholarship. It's now a program, and it is the access to a life-changing experience, to an opportunity for students to give back to their fellow students through follow-on service projects that students like you go on to complete, and to become part of a legacy that will continue to give you ongoing opportunities back to you. So I know that's a lot to digest, so let's dig into that a little bit more. So the Gilman Scholarship is sponsored by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, or ECA, in the U.S. Department of State. The ECA leads a wide range of academic, professional, and cultural exchanges with the goal of increasing mutual understanding and respect between people of the United States and people of other countries. And the Gilman Scholarship is just one of many programs sponsored by the ECA. And then Gilman Scholars go on to become a part of a network of approximately 40,000 people who participate in ECA programs every year. So Gilman exists within the Office of USA Study Abroad, which is committing to shaping and sustaining a more peaceful, prosperous, and just world by increasing and diversifying participation in study abroad. And we welcome you to visit their website for more information. So by supporting undergraduate students who have high financial need, the program has been successful in supporting students who have been historically underrepresented in education abroad, including but not limited to first-generation college students, students in STEM fields like most of you here at WPI, ethnic minority students, students with disabilities, students attending historically Black colleges and universities, or other minority serving institutions, students attending community colleges, and students coming from US states with less study abroad participants. So since the program's inception in 2001, more than 33,000 ambitious and diverse American students have received Gilman Scholarship to study or intern in more than 150 countries and hail from more than 1,300 universities across the nation. The Gilman program engages with public and private sector partners to increase participation. And I will say that over the few years that I've been here at WPI, we have consistently been named a Gilman Scholar top sending institution, because the proportion of our applicants versus the actual number of students who receive scholarships is a very high percentage. So we can talk more about that as we go along. So for the entire academic year, Gilman awards over 3,000 scholarships, including awards for the inaugural Gilman McCain Scholarship and awards associated with government partnerships. There's a new Gilman FLAD Portugal Scholarship, Gilman Global Wales Scholarship, Gilman Education New Zealand Scholarship, and Gilman France Scholarship. Now, most students here at WPI, even if you are participating in a project center that goes to one of those locations, wouldn't be eligible for those particular scholarships because there is a focus on language there. So, and or a direct enrollment within an institution in that, in New Zealand or France. So what you would be eligible to apply for is just the regular Gilman Scholarship. So recipients receive up to $5,000 to use towards program costs and related expenses. And related expenses would be tuition and fees or the program fee for off-campus IQPs and MQPs, books, local transportation, international airfare, passports and visa costs, but personal expenses such as clothing, entertainment, and personal travel outside the program would not be eligible. I will say that if you do have a global scholarship through WPI, you would still be eligible to apply and receive additional funding towards your off-campus project through the Gilman. So for some students, historically, they haven't received the full 5,000 because on the application, you do have to indicate whether you're receiving other scholarships for the experience. But I mean, an additional $2,000 for some students would still be very helpful. So the award amount varies, and that really depends on the student need, the strength of your application, and the overall cost of the program. So you can apply the scholarship towards a fall, spring, summer, winter, or academic year program. And for us, it's just the term-based program. So Gilman is often asked by students, what are the chances of me receiving a scholarship? And generally 1 in 4 students who apply are awarded a scholarship. If selected for a Gilman scholarship, recipients will utilize a password protected and secure Gilman recipient portal in order to put in fund information for the distribution of funds to you. And then goes on to say that recipients of the Gilman scholarship will never be contacted by phone or email to provide personal bank information. So again, I mentioned this before about the critical need or just about language. So another aspect of the Gilman is the Critical Need Language Award. And because of the nature of the projects at WPI, most students wouldn't necessarily be eligible, but still want to just let you know that that does exist. If you were thinking about doing something once you've graduated from WPI, that's an option or an avenue for you to explore. So in terms of eligibility, students or an applicant must be a citizen of the United States, an undergraduate student in good standing at an accredited institution of higher education in the United States, which you all are. You must be receiving a federal Pell Grant during the time of your application or provide proof that you will be receiving a Pell Grant during the term that you are doing your project. In the process of applying to or accepted for a study abroad or internship program or virtual international program of at least 2 weeks for community colleges, and for us, it would be 3 weeks, which for four-year institutions. Now, they said something about virtual international programs because over the last year, students have had disrupted plans. Obviously, here at WPI, we have not opened travel back up, but in the event that a program location would not be that you were accepted to doesn't travel for some reason, as long as your program sponsor or project sponsor is located in the country that you were supposed to travel to, you would still be eligible to use the funds. So I want to really hammer that point home. Because they made that change as a result of the pandemic, because we did have students last year who had received a Gilman, did not travel, and then had to forfeit their scholarship. So that's a really great change that they've made to sort of accommodate just the current global situation. So we'll talk more about the eligibility of the program as we go on, because there's some more information later in the slideshow about that. So all of our programs are credit bearing, so we don't need to worry about that. But the location must be a 1 or a 2 according to the U.S. Department of State's travel advisory system. And most countries right now are listed around a 2 or a 3 based on COVID restrictions. So as long as students program location is back down to a 1 or 2 prior to their program travel, then they will be eligible to use the scholarship if you are awarded it. But if you are, I don't think, none of our programs go to level 3 or 4 countries anyway, so we don't have to worry about not being eligible for that. Okay. And just another thing to note is that recipients can only receive the scholarship once. So if you are awarded a scholarship and decline it, you are welcome to reapply as long as you still meet all of the eligibility requirements that we already went over. In terms of the virtual programs, you can use the scholarship funds to pay for credit-bearing virtual study abroad or international internship programs that take place through next academic year. But you could defer your scholarship to an in-person program. This really applies to students who participate in traditional study abroad programs, not necessarily WPI, but we fall under the category of a virtual faculty-led study abroad program. So that's where you would indicate that on the application, or you would notify Gilman of a change in program status if your program goes from an in-person to a remote project. And then the other newer scholarship that they have is the Gilman McCain Scholarship. This really is for undergraduate dependents of active duty military personnel, not necessarily ROTC here. So I don't believe that anyone falls under this category, but if you do, you can send me a separate message and I'm happy to walk through what that scholarship entails. So yeah, there's some differences in terms of what you need to do for that one. So onto the application process. The whole process is conducted online and has 2 steps. Step 1 is the online application where the Gilman will ask for study abroad or internship program details. So that's where you would put in your project center location that you are accepted to. There are 3 essays. You will provide an undergraduate transcript. And if you have transcripts from any previous institutions beyond WPI, you would need to include those. And then we'll talk about the essays in the next couple of slides. But the application also requires you to select a study abroad advisor and a financial aid advisor within the application. So I am the study abroad advisor, and Mike DeRuza in the financial aid office would be your financial aid advisor. So once students have completed your applications, we receive notification so that we can go through, certify that you are in fact a Pell Grant recipient and that you are in good standing and accepted to, that you're still participating in an off-campus project. Okay, so the first essay is a statement of purpose, has a maximum of 7,000 characters, which is only about a page and a half. And these essays really are the bread and butter of the application because they are where the selection panelists, advisors, and administrators at different US campuses there's a whole selection review committee. They review the applications, and this is really the only way that they get to know who you are, why you're doing your off-campus project, and why you would be a good candidate for a Gilman. So this is where after students have written their essays, we do recommend that you circle back to our office so we can sort of make sure that your essays, you don't have to do this, but it's helpful so that your essay is framed in a way that somebody who's not part of WPI understands what the project work is. So, you know, we have a very different system here, just in how we do projects and what that means. And we'll get into a little bit more in the next essay, but this, the statement of purpose essay really is a place for you to talk about maybe your journey at WPI and the projects program, and how, you know, it is a good fit for the Gilman scholarship. So it's kind of like a personal interview, and you can talk about if you have a particular passion for the location that you got placed in, or if you have a personal connection to that location. So yeah, so the other big piece is that every student who is applying to the Gilman has financial need. So you can talk about that in your statement of purpose essay, but it's really better to elaborate on other challenges that you faced in addition to that. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself as you're going through that statement of purpose. You know, do you make a connection between your program and the goals? Do you make a connection between the country and goals? Do you share how you will be academically successful? Do you give examples of your experiences, skills, and knowledge? And do you address how this abroad experience will impact your future? So that's something where you might be able to relate your major back to the project location, especially for students who are doing their MQP. So then the second essay is, well, there's 2 community impact essays. Both of them are required, and they are equally important in the selection process. So there is a selection criterion community impact abroad and students return home section that they highly suggest that you read. So community impact building mutual understanding essay requires you to answer how you will be a US citizen diplomat as a Gilman Scholar while you're abroad. Key aspects to this essay are how you will be a US representative abroad, how you will seek opportunities to become more culturally engaged and have meaningful interactions with people from different cultures on your abroad program. So in this essay has a maximum of 3,000 characters. And this is where you really can hone in on WPI's global projects program, and how you're working with a local sponsor organization to, you know, solve a real world problem. And there's some language that you can draw from the website and how you explain your project. So that's that. And then the second, here's some questions that you would ask yourself. Oops. And then the third essay is the follow-on service project proposal. So this, the program and the sponsors at the US Department of State value what they call the multiplier effect this program has on US campuses and communities. So the follow-on service project proposal requires you to answer how you will represent the Gilman program upon your return home from your project. And it does require you to design a project to promote the Gilman Scholarship. So in this essay, students are asked to map out a potential project for them to complete that will encourage others to study or intern abroad and spread awareness of actual Gilman Scholarship. It can be completed on campus, but if you have a connection to an organization within the Worcester community or maybe your home community, then you can certainly use that. I know a lot of students who've been in fraternities and sororities have used that as a way to, just as a audience for their follow-on service projects. We've had students come and assist us with the global fair events and other info sessions that we run. And the other part is that it must be completed within 6 months of the return to the US. So really key aspects to this essay are how you will be a US representative at home, and the creativity and the feasibility of your follow-on service project. So Gilman advises students to use organizations and activities that you're already involved in, like I said, fraternities or sororities or other organizations. Your academic department is also an area that you can focus on. So, and again, they ask students to consider the audience, tools you might need, and a timeline for proposing the project. And this essay also has a maximum of 3,000 characters, so not very long. I know students have also changed their project, so you don't have to do exactly what you intend to do in the application if you do receive the scholarship in return, because things change. But Gilman, not WPI, Gilman will be following up with students about the follow-on service projects once your program is over. And then these are just some questions that you can ask yourself when doing your follow-on service essay. Is it feasible? Does it have a detailed plan? And do you have a specific audience that you are targeting? And then this essay is not relevant unless you're doing the critical need. And then this is just going to go over a little bit of the selection criteria. So the impact of the program and destination on the student's academic and career trajectory. A successful applicant will demonstrate a coherent link between their proposed program abroad activities and future academic and/or career plans, as well as a personal development goal. Students should detail different aspects of their program and articulate how their participation and receipt of the Gilman Scholarship would support the achievement of these goals. And then community impact abroad and upon students' return home. The mission of the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs is to increase mutual understanding between people of the U.S. and people of other countries. I think I already said that. And Gilman plays an essential role in achieving this mission because technically study abroad is a form of diplomacy. Gilman scholars represent United States as citizen diplomats in their host communities, and they reflect a diversity of values, beliefs, and opinions that is fundamental to providing a balanced representation of the U.S. abroad. Gilman scholars are expected to contribute to the goal of building mutual understanding by sharing what it means to be an American, learning about the host culture, and building meaningful relationships, which students absolutely do through their project work. And then upon return, you have the opportunity to inspire a new wave of students to study or intern abroad through your required follow-on service projects, and successful follow-on service project proposal will be feasible, utilize one's experience abroad, and connect to a diverse group of Americans. And then in terms of academic preparedness, the U.S. Department of State is committing to ensuring that Gilman scholars are successful on their programs abroad. A competitive applicant must demonstrate the academic preparedness needed to gain benefit from a study abroad or international internship program. They should disclose any significant challenges they face in their academic career and discuss how they will be academically successful on your program. Academic performance, particularly in the major, is important, but there is not a minimum GPA for participating. But I will say that most students who are participating in an off-campus project have to be in good academic standing anyway, so that has never really come up in former applicants here. And then diversity of background and experience. The Gilman program seeks participation by the broadest group of American undergraduate students with financial need who will benefit from the knowledge, skills, and experiences they acquire by studying abroad. And then by supporting students who have high financial need, the program has been successful in supporting students who've been historically underrepresented, like I said before. Preference is not given to students who have not studied abroad before, and not to veterans on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces. So there's that. And then the additional review criteria is for if you are participating in the critical need, language need award. So important Dates and deadlines here. So the March application deadline is for any program that starts this whole next academic year, starting with e-term programs for us that start in May. The application has been open for a couple of weeks, but because we don't finalize our project placements until about now, that's why we waited until now to have the info session. But the hard deadline is March 2nd, 2021, and that is at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So much later here, obviously. And then the deadline for advisors to certify applications is 1 week later. If you are not participating in a program until C21 or D22, there will be another application process in the fall. But I will say that the benefit to applying now, if you have a program that far out, is that you will receive the finances when the disbursement happens for the first round of applications. So for some students, they basically, you will receive the scholarship, but it may not be until your program is underway. And that may or may not be helpful in terms of helping to assist with paying for your international flight, or if you need to apply for a passport or have visa fees associated with your program location. So, but if you apply now and you don't get chosen for a scholarship, but you have a C21, D22 project, then you, C22, D22 project, you would be able to apply again in the fall. So that is that. And then these are just some tips. And again, we are happy to meet with students once you've gotten your essays going to make sure that you're sort of headed in the right direction and talking about what's important to you. And, you know, the big thing that is that they will not accept any late applications. So if you are thinking that you want to apply for it, it's certainly something that you should dedicate some time to over the next couple of weeks to be sure that you're ready to go. And then just some more tips. Talking about the follow-on service project. And again, if you don't apply, you won't get it. So some of the alumni benefits associated with receiving the scholarship is, and then once you've completed your follow-on service project, you have access to a multitude of benefits and opportunities. I think one of the most intriguing is the non-competitive eligibility requirement. So alumni of the Gilman program are eligible for 12 months of NCE hiring status with federal government, with the possibility of extending for up to an additional 2 years if you served in the military, studied at a recognized institution of higher ed, or involved in another activity which in the agency's view warrants an extension. So there is more information about that on the Department of State website. And if you have successfully completed your program within the last 3 years, you may be eligible for that NCE. And then there is an alumni portal that you would have access to, where you could request a certificate of achievement that will provide a record of a successful program completion, certifying your start date and the validity of the non-competitive eligibility. I know that we've had students take advantage of that benefit. Then there's the Gilman Scholar Network, and that's where scholars and alumni are able to connect with one another via secure and private platform. You can search for other scholars and alumni by categories such as location, college, university, country of study or intern abroad, and career industry. And Gilman scholars and alumni can request mentorship from more experienced Gilman alumni or offer mentorship to younger alumni or new scholars. So that also gives access to exclusive job postings, Gilman event announcements, and official photos. And then, of course, you can apply to be a Gilman alumni ambassador. They serve for 1 year as official representatives of the U.S. Department of State's Gilman International Scholarship Program. You provide testimonials about your experience at different campus presentations and offer application tips via written articles, videos, webinars, and special events. And then there are seminars and career workshops that are available to scholars and alumni to connect with each other. And then in terms of skill development, when you go abroad, you just naturally learn new skills such as adapting to change, learning a new language, which you may be in the process of doing now, and how to communicate with others. So there are a lot of ways that you can stay connected to the program for updates and information. There's also a Gilman YouTube channel that has videos from previous recipients and instructional videos on different aspects of working on the application. They have a Gilman Global Experience blog. I know they're on Instagram. They've been doing alumni AMAs on Thursdays. So there was one earlier this afternoon, and they may have some more leading up to the application. So I will try to post those on the WPI Global Instagram page. So when they're happening, so you can learn more about that. Or if you just simply search for the hashtag Gilman Scholarship, a lot of content will come up. So there are also resources for you to search for if you haven't found a program. In this case, students at WPI, are accepted to particular projects. So that is less of a resource, but there are other, once you complete the Gilman, or if you complete your project and are a Gilman, you can apply for Fulbright and a lot of other opportunities there. So there are some flyers that are available for students. And if you want a PDF, I have them saved so I can send those out to you. You can contact Gilman directly if you have questions, but really you're best to contact us here, me really, because I'm the certifying officer. So the Global Experience contact info, my email, that's my direct line. I will say I'm in the office today, but I am working hybrid. So some days I'm at home, some days I'm here. So the best way to reach me is by email. Here's a link to just our office page, but if you send me an email, when I reply in my signature, there is a link that you can book me to schedule a time to talk about your application. So if that is all for my presentation. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop my screen share and open it up to you all. If anybody has any questions, you can just type it right into the chat. So the exact due date for this first round of the application is March 2nd, but it's at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So I guess technically that would be March 3rd at 2:59 a.m. And then the question, if we are D22, we can't get it now, but you can get it now. If you apply now, you could receive the scholarship now, and then you will have the scholarship money dispersed to you. Usually the disbursement date is June for the March application. So you would have that money ahead of time to be able to plan ahead for your D22 project. If you didn't get selected now, you could apply again in the fall. And then usually the D20, the second half of the year, the spring programs, the disbursement date is usually in February. If you are not a US citizen, you can still apply, but you may want to, we can chat separately about your status, because it will be, you must be a citizen by the time you are participating in your project, if that makes sense. So if you know when you may become a citizen, that's a little bit more helpful. I mean, what I would suggest for all of you is to just visit the Gilman website, take a look at the application itself. You can start one. You don't need to complete it, but at least just to get a lay of, I guess, the lay of the land, or to explore it and see what you need to do to complete it. It's really, you know, pretty straightforward. The hardest part is the essays, and we really suggest that you focus on talking about the project work that you will be participating in. We know that you don't have your project assignments yet, so it's not exactly what you're going to be doing, but just what maybe what your major is and how you would like to, you can draw upon some of the past projects that have happened in that location. Even if that's not necessarily the type of project that you're going to be doing, it would at least give the selection committee an idea of what the IQP is. So the other part is not saying things like IQP or using the WPI lingo unless you, you know, define it at the beginning part of your essay. So yeah. Well, again, I am open to taking questions offline, so feel free to send me a message. Thank you for listening. It's a lot of information, and a lot of that's put out by Gilman because they want to be sure that people really understand what the scholarship's about, who sponsors it, and all of that. So thank you all, and I look forward to talking to you again. I will send this whole recording out, so if you wanted to revisit any part of it, then we'll get there. All right, thank you.